Hey guys, I thought I would do a quick yarn review of this Brooklyn Tweed Peerie yarn. I'm almost done with this hat and I can give a more in-depth impression of this yarn, and I just thought I would speak to some of the qualities of the yarn rather than saying I like it or I didn't like it or I thought it was good or bad. I'm going to try to be as neutral as possible because I know that there's probably a lot of people that have already tried this yarn and really love it, and I don't want to create an impression that would lead people to think something inaccurate about this yarn. It's a very high quality yarn, and it's very, very suitable for Fair Isle knitting. The first thing I wanted to say is about the softness of the yarn. If you're looking for a garment that needs to be worn close to your skin, I think this yarn feels really soft. And the nice thing about this yarn is that it's soft, but it doesn't have a halo on it. So it has a very smooth finished surface to it, and I think that will contribute to it not pilling or having a look of wearing out quickly that some softer yarns have that create a halo. When you're knitting with this yarn, because of course, even a small hat requires a lot of, I think 10,000 stitches go into a hat, believe it or not. So I did find that when this yarn was going through my fingers, after an hour it did start to feel abrasive, but I didn't get a strong wool reaction, which I can get from some harsher wool. So that was a plus. Because it is a heavy fingering weight, I found that the normal needle that I typically use, which would for me be a 3mm to get the target gauge for a hat, I couldn't do that because I have pretty bad carpal tunnel and arthritis. And I found that with the 3mm needle, my hand felt like it was having to work a lot harder to get the needle in and out of each stitch. And so that was triggering a lot of pain for me. So I had to go up to the 3.25 millimeter needle. And even when I did that, I found that this yarn kind of really makes you work a lot harder. And it did feel like it was more demanding on my muscles. And so I found that I was having a difficult time tensioning the yarn, especially with my left hand, but sometimes with my right hand. So that was something to think about. And then in terms of drape, that's the final thing I wanted to talk about. This yarn doesn't have a lot of drape, at least before washing. This hat can sit on its own. So that is pretty stiff. And I think that this yarn, because it doesn't have a lot of drape, it doesn't have a lot of give. It felt like I was knitting with cotton. And so because it doesn't have a lot of give, it doesn't have a lot of drape, I think this yarn would be super fantastic for garments where you wanted a lot of structure. So for example, if you were knitting a jacket where you want to have a lot of structure, this yarn would be fantastic because it would give you a lot of structure. But if you needed more drape, then maybe you might want to look for a yarn that has a little bit more give and a lot more softness to it. The other thing I thought this yarn would be really good for is for sweaters that you would be knitting for children, because if children have to, they want to be out in the playground and they're a little bit more hard wearing on their clothes, I think this yarn would be super fantastic for children because it seems like it would be more durable and more hard wearing, and at the same time pretty soft. So I definitely think this would be super special for sweaters for children. So I did think this would definitely be something, if I were knitting children's sweaters, I would definitely think of this yarn as something that would be at the top of my mind. In terms of the colors, I did think that the colors that I picked out do work really well together. These reddish browns, although it's not a gradient, this was the best that I could come up with from the shade card that I had. And I do like the way they work together, and I felt like this just kind of had a nice feeling of being in the woods or something more rustic, and I really, really do like the brown, reddish brown tones in this line, so I was happy with the way this turned out. I think that's all that I wanted to say, and I hope that for people who are trying to explore what yarn do I go with, is this the one or is that the one? These are some of the qualities that I found from this yarn line that really stood out to me, and I thought I would just share in a brief video. The pattern that I'm working with for this project, it's from this book, Shetland Wool Adventures Journal, Volume 1. It was released as a part of Shetland Wool Week 2020, and it is the Nighthawk Skull Cap from Wilma Malcolmson, and this is what her hat looks like here. And I'll end by just saying that this hat is super special. The little motif here, it's a little bit hard to see it in the photography here, but it looks like this was an eye, perhaps of a hawk. So it kind of reminds me of a cat eye in a way. And so I think this is the eye, and this motif here might be the night star. And I didn't quite pick up on that when I first picked up that book. And so that was kind of fun discovering that as I was knitting. And then the other thing is this is super fun. It's different. The typical XOX patterning in Shetland knitting. This one is an inverted V and a diamond in the center, and that gives you the X. You can see I really had trouble tensioning this yarn. Normally I don't have that much trouble, but this yarn was really challenging for me. I think it required me to have a lot more strength in my hands that I don't have in order for it to get to my usual knitting and my usual ability to tension this yarn. So this is the bottom row here and my corrugated ribbing there. So I was really happy with the colors. I really like the colors on this. So I will end this video for now, and I have a couple of hats that I knit with their other yarn from this company, and I'll do a review on that so that people can kind of get a sense for the differences between the two. And that'll be a future video that I hope to get to soon. So thank you so much for watching, you guys, and I'll talk to you next time.